Rock, metal, prog, and everything in between. If you're into rock, you've come to the right place. Welcome to this episode of Talkin' Rock with Meltdown. Don't forget to follow the audio-only Talkin' Rock podcast on all podcast platforms. And now, it's time for today's conversation. Here's Meltdown.
I love the Yachtly Cruise shirt. I haven't seen that band yet. Have you seen them?
Dude, they're freaking awesome. I saw them New Year's Eve. They played here in town. And obviously very age-appropriate music, and I love them, man. They're like the Steel Panther of yacht rock, you know. They're like super cool. They look the part. They play great, and yeah, it's funny, you know, because my son turned me on to yacht rock some years back, you know, of course, and you know, like for I don't know about you and me, but growing up in the Midwest. You know, I was listening to AM radio stations on the farm, occasionally FM over in like Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And it was basically yacht rock interrupted by maybe a Kiss song,
right?
Sticks, Sweets, you know, something, you know, and I go, I like the heavier stuff, but you know, I'll listen to some Hall & Oates and some Christopher Cross until I can hear Shout It Out Loud again.
There you go. Yeah, we'll talk about Kiss coming up here in a little bit, but first you have like a million things going on. By the way, last time I saw you, you're celebrating your birthday here in Detroit with Metallica. So I mean, obviously that made a little bit of news. I saw it all over the place, but that was a great.
Man, who better friends to spend your birthday with than Metallica? I mean, you know, and Pantera and Five Finger Death Punch and you know, the whole gang, Wolfgang and everybody. So yeah, no, that was super fun. Well, it's funny because I was in town, really in the area to film this movie with Drew Fortier, who I play in the Lucid with. We did this new movie called Bunker Heights, and so I had to come in and film my thug scene for the movie. So it worked out perfectly that they were wrapping their year in Michigan, and obviously we got to hang out and you know, take in a rock concert.
Now, did you see Vinny from the band The Lucid when you were here? Vinny from Sponge?
I didn't. I didn't. No, I did the show and then I booked on down the road and finished all the filming and stuff. You know, down, you know, basically in the area there, but outside of Detroit. So yeah, no, I didn't. You know, Vinny's always busy as well. You know, it's funny. That's one of the reasons people ask, when is the Lucid playing? And you know, it's just hard with schedules. You know, Mike Heller plays in Raven, I guess kind of formally maybe Fear Factory. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but so he's busy. You know, Vinny's always out with Sponge constantly. And of course he brought, you know, some insane clown posse love into the Lucid, you know. So, and that was all Vinny, man, because, you know, he's just that kind of fun rock and roll character to come up with fun ideas, you know.
Yeah, no doubt. I was just thinking about that as you were talking. I don't know who's in more projects, you or Vinny, because you're in about 27 and he's in about 20 or so. So,
you know, I always get crap from my manager from Kings of Thrash. You know, he's like, you guys, you've ruined rock and roll. You're in too many bands. I said, listen, dude, I rolled the big rock up the big hill for 20 years exclusively. I mean, there it is, right?
Right.
You know, and you know, and then one day that came to an end. And 2002, so you know, the 2000s was sort of that was my decade to be entrepreneurial, to be resourceful. I remember I was talking to some people at Fender, and one of the ladies over there, she goes, you know, you're very resourceful. And I thought, you know, that what a compliment, you know, to have that, you know. And again, growing up in the Midwest. By the way, I love your window. That's exactly what it looked like in the farm where I was growing up. You know, you learn to be resourceful, man. And you know, rock and roll, being in bands has always been an entrepreneurial game, you know, and if you're fortunate that, you know, one of these things hits like that, you know, it's a diamond in the rough. It's a lottery win if there ever was one. But again, I've been in a gazillion bands of various successes, and you know, not all of them get you gold and platinums. In fact, you know, it's funny. I just got these Metal Alliegence ones, and now they do streams, right? They do Spotify streams instead of, you know, like records sold and all that kind of stuff. But a plaque is a plaque, and it'll look good next to all the rest of them, you know?
That's right. So Metal Alliegence, you got the 10-year anniversary of that coming up at the House of Blues on January 25th. And it's going to be a plethora of guests. Is that what's going to happen?
Pretty much. I mean, you know, that thing started on the Motorhead's motorboat cruise. Megadeth was supposed to be on that, and then Megadeth canceled it. And so the promoter was a friend of mine. and he worked with Shiprocked and a bunch of stuff as well. And so, he called me freaking out, like who's going to be his headliner, and so I said, dude, I got an idea on something, and I called Mark Mengi, who's my partner, in Metal Allegiance, and because he ran artist relations for Harkey, and so when I went back to Megadeth, it's funny, Tim Ripper Owens had just introduced me to Mark at a NAMM show in 2010, and then literally about 2 weeks later, I'm back in Megadeth, so I called Mark and go, dude, I need some Harkey gear for, we're playing Rust in Peace. I need it to look and sound authentic, the Jackson bass, Harkey amp and stuff. So that was where me and Mengi connected. And then when we started doing the big four shows, Mark put together something that he called Metal Masters, which was kind of a clinic that then turned into a performance, right? And it was me, Frank Bello on bass, Frank singing, Charlie Benante on guitar, and Mike Portnoy on drums. And we did one at a Sam Ash music store over in Cerritos right before the Indio Big Four that we did in April 2011. And then that got some legs, and it turned into a thing, then it turned in, Phil Anselmo and Kerry King and Geezer Butler and Dave Lombardo, it was kind of everybody. It was a big thing. And as Mengi transitioned out of his artist relations gig at Harkey and Sampson, that summer of 2014, we were chatting, and I just said, man, let's keep this going. This is too fun. We got all the famous guys here, so he trademarked and rebranded it as Metal Allegiance, and then the Megadeth, cancellation happened on Motorboat, and I called Mark and go, guess what, buddy, we're up. This is it, because we had planned on launching it at NAMM in 2015, and like a lot of things in life, suddenly the call comes and it's like, dude, this is you. Are you in or not? I remember Billy Sheehan told me that when I was writing my first book. He said, you'll have to make some of the most critical decisions under the worst of circumstances, or, the least convenience kind of duress. And this was, this wasn't duress, but it was like, hey, Mark, remember that thing we were talking about last week, Metal Allegiance? Well, guess what? We're going to be on the motorboat. Like, let's go, and so that, that's how life happens. That's how all this shit happened, is just be ready to go, so that started it in 2014 on the motorboat cruise. And we went over to Portnoy's house a month later, made our first record, and made a second record. And, here we are 10 years later, playing a show with, it's the core four. It's me, Mengi, Portnoy, and Skolnick. We're the kind of the four captains of the ship. And then, a bunch of our friends, Phil Demmel, Andreas Kisser, Troy from Mastodon, John Bush from Armored Saints, Chuck Billy, of course, from Testament. So Chris Poland is even joining us. So it'll be his first Metal Allegiance show. So, we change it up. No two shows are the same.
Yeah, that's at the House of Blues coming up on January 25th. Plus this year, is the Nick Menza documentary dropping this year?
We set it to be finished by the end of December 31st. And of course, it isn't. As these things go, there's more people involved in this than me. I mean, look, they called me and said, hey, would you want to narrate it? I'm sure. Well, next thing you know, I'm, funding it a little bit. And, I go with every freaking thing I get involved with. But, I do it. Look, I have a motto this year, be led by your passions rather than be driven by your ambitions, and when you're led by your passions, you're always going down, I'd like to think, the right path, because you're excited about it, and of course, look, Nick's my friend, he was a dear friend to me, as well as, the iconic drummer of Megadeth and all the other things that the fans know him as. He was a dear friend, and his family have been very gracious to me as well. So, for me to participate in that is great. So that we're going to do the premiere at my coffee booth, the Ellefson coffee booth at NAMM next week. So and that's for anybody who's attending NAMM and any of the media that's there. So we'll have a screening of the premiere, which is not that long, but it's a short little clip, but it kind of summarizes the movie. It sort of takes you through kind of the journey of what the movie's going to be. And my hope is that we would probably premiere the film sometime this year, and I learned this after doing this with Drew, with Dwellers and stuff. You go around, you do the, all these, these festivals, these film festivals and stuff, so, and then, you shop for distribution. And I mean, ultimately today, everything ends up on some digital platform. If you're lucky, you get on Netflix and HBO and that kind of stuff. If you're, smaller independent stuff like this will probably end up on like, is it Tubi and some of these kind of digital platforms. So, that those digital things in TV, that's kind of caught up to where the music business started with Napster, Napster and iTunes. So, it's like all music ends up digitally, all films now eventually end up digitally as well.
You probably talked about this, but since you brought it up, I don't think I've ever asked you about this. Was Lars right?
He was 100% right. And in fact, we were told by our manager, shut up, don't say anything about it. It's too controversial, stay out of it. But I mean, on the sidelines, I'm going, he's totally right. And like he said, he goes, look, we have the money to fight this, da, da, da. Unfortunately, it was an unwinnable thing. And it was just such bad, press, unfortunately, even though, look, he's right. You can't go to the grocery store and just decide to take a loaf of bread and go, it's digital bread. It should be free, and it's like, you know what I mean? Or if you're sitting at home on Amazon or whatever, Uber Eats, it's like, yeah, you got to pay for it when it shows up at the door, So, there's no free lunches, no
Well,
pun intended.
Nowadays you can walk into stores and apparently steal stuff in some places. So
maybe, yeah. There are, I guess, certain places you can. But no, he's right. It's like, look, music costs people time, money. It's an endeavor. I mean, look, if you just want to play for free and for fun, go in your living room and play. But when you're out, selling a product, which a song is when it's professionally, marketed, then yeah, look, there's cost to these things, and for people to just take it is, whatever. But and look, finally, a lot of it I think was just sort of educating people about how the internet can't just run amok with things as it tends to do with certain things. For me, Steve Jobs, he's my hero anyway. I'm an Apple guy, always have been, and in a way, he kind of saved the day with that, and by creating the iTunes store, even if it was just so he could sell more iPods. He created his own little music grocery store, to kind of, create the ecosphere, I guess, But so, look, Lars was right. Steve Jobs got the job done, and we all live happily ever after.
now, speaking of music and records, when I found out I was talking, of course, I Googled your name just to see like what I could talk to you about. I mean, we could talk about a million things that people probably wouldn't care about. But I saw the 5 albums that you picked as your 5, and it's kind of funny because you got these you got 4 albums from like the end of the 70s, early 80s: Destroyer, Van Halen, Unleashed in the East, Moving Pictures, and then you got Ghost. So I thought that was kind of a weird dichotomy. But I mean, of course, we're about the same age, so that late 70s, early 80s kind of transformed a lot of the music that we liked.
Jeff Young said it best. I was talking about Ghost one day, and he goes, dude, they sound like Blue Oyster Cult. I went, man, that's it. If you're talking to someone our age, what does this new band Ghost sound like? They've got this kind of Blue Oyster Cult, this of a vocal sound that's not this really heavy, rough death metal, screamo kind of thing. As Blue Oyster Cult had a very kind of calming, soothing sound to the singing of Blue Oyster Cult, as well as these awesome harmonies. And, there's, like off Meliora, He Is, for instance, has these just beautiful guitar lines in it. Even the very final guitar line of it just reminds me of this very majestic, almost like Neil Schon of Journey in the 70s. Sticks, dual guitar kind of stuff. So to me, there's a lot of this kind of 70s classic rock thing in there. Of course, bringing the keyboard thing in, I was not a big fan of keyboards growing up in music, because I always just I liked Unleashed in the East, right? Heavy, just brutal guitars. And I've come to appreciate it a lot more, when I've played in jazz band, I played in church, I played in other, rock and roll fantasy camps, where there's keyboards and things. And, and it's interesting when you're in the room with a keyboard player. Al Petrelli taught me this, actually, because one day I got a call to play in church, and Al was in town. We were writing The World Needs a Hero. And they said, Al, in Al's tone, hey, nothing. You want to come play in church, And so he did, he showed up with his tattoos and pack of cigarettes and, but he, Al's an educator. He's a Berkeley guy. He went to Berkeley the same year with the Dream Theater guys. And they all, I guess, did a year at Berkeley, left, and then, started their bands and got on to being professionals. But, Al taught me something. He says, he goes, he didn't even have a chord chart. He goes, yeah, I'm just watching the keyboard player's left hand over there, to kind of read the chords. And so I learned a lot from him with that because, whereas a guitar, you're looking at, these 21, 22, or 24 frets, which is, fret 1 to 12 is the same, from here to 12 there, that's one set of notes. And then it's just the same set of notes from 12 on up, as many frets as you have. Whereas on a keyboard, you're looking at just octaves after octaves after octaves, right? And so visually, I think it's a little bit different. And, so for me, when I hear the Ghost stuff, it's kind of Gary Weaver or Dreamweaver, Gary Wright kind of stuff. It's maybe at times a little Deep Purple, maybe a little Angel, but then it's also got this kind of 70s and 70, like the Cars, like 70. The Cars had this really great keyboard sound. It was really out there, right? And it didn't blend in with the guitars, so I guess I've, over the years, and maybe Ghost kind of opened my eyes to it a bit, or my ears to it, because I hear it now in a way that I think is very clever and cool and adds something. And look, they made the keytar famous again. Right? Again, Greg Giuffria from Angel, Gary Wright, they all had the keytar, which is a keyboard that looks like a guitar. You can come out and play it with a strapped on, around your neck. Like
the guy from Revenge of the Nerds.
Is that what it is? I guess.
I think he had one of those too. But that's funny you mentioned the song "He Is," because that video was shot here in Detroit, and the girl I work with, Jade, is actually one of the girls in the video.
No kidding. Yeah. Wow. So you have a personal connection.
But that's probably one of my favorite songs of theirs, and they're great in concert. I saw those guys back in August, and it was great because it was like a dreary, cool, rainy night here in Detroit, and it's like that's the perfect way to see Ghost.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's got this the church thing is cool. The whole thing is, and it's interesting because the Europeans have a very different view of religion and church than we do here in America. Here we have this sort of religious freedom. Church and state, literally, the government can't be part of a church, et cetera, and, over there, it's very different, obviously, the religious persecutions and stuff. So they have a very not so favorable view of it, so it's like when you see like Nurgle with Behemoth and you see, the Ghost stuff, there's this, kind of shot in the face to that thing, and it's a shtick, but it's cool. I like it. I think I love it too. I saw Ghost 3 times in the last tour, and I thought it was just every time got better and better. I just thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, those guys are right on the money as well. What a great band to see live.
Yeah, super good. And it's fun. There's like 9 guys on the stage. It's like Earth, Wind, and Fire back in the day. You know what I mean? It's like this huge production, and and I've been going to see a lot of shows. When I just came home from Europe, we were doing the Dieth tour all summer, and was just kind of chilling here in Arizona, just resting up and everything, and so I went out to see a bunch of shows. I mean, I would see everything from like Eric Church to Ghost, to Metallica, to everything, Rob Zombie, Alice Cooper, all this stuff, and it's just fun sometimes to just go and be a fan in the audience and enjoy watching a show, just like I used to go see Kiss and Iron Maiden and everybody when I was growing up in Minnesota. Just, Kiss is one of those bands, like I've said before, I'll always be a student of Kiss, even if they're not touring anymore, I'll still be a student of them. And, I go to concerts to be a fan. So I remember why I give concerts myself, and to appreciate my own fans, how they look at us. And, when you're on that stage, it's a special, sacred place to be. So when you're there, be special, give them their money's worth.
Yeah, I had a pretty cool Kiss moment this year. They played here in October at the arena, and what happened was they do this Kiss VIP thing that I think you were part of, where they play on the stage for the fans and the whole thing.
I did do that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the stage here in Detroit wasn't ready, and so they actually put a makeshift stage on the concourse right by where I was broadcasting.
Whoa.
Yep.
Wow.
It was really cool. So they played, I think, 5 songs,
Yeah.
just sitting on bar stools, and it was really cool.
Yeah, my friend of mine, Scott Revenald, who owns Asylum Records, he bought the Paul Stanley Stage Smash guitar package. So he texted me, he goes, "Dude, you want to go see Kiss?" And I'd seen him over in Europe this summer, and I was like, "Yeah, why not? Probably the last time I'll see him play live, or at least on that level, And I say that because who knows if it's avatars or what they're going to do after this, but so it was great. And he said, "Dude, come on down to the pit." And I mean, you're leaning against the stage. I mean, you literally reach over and touch Gene's boot over here,
Yeah.
And I was texting my friend Greg Hanovitt over in Minnesota, going, "Dude, check this out. Imagine us at 13 when my mom took us to see Kiss on Rock and Roll Over, and this was all." This was all like magic and showbiz, and now I know how they do it. I know how that's done. But still, again, it was just great to be there at the show, and the sound check thing was a great idea, because obviously with Kiss, the shows with makeup, the sound check party was not, and then they would play different songs. They would play songs. And as best I could tell, it's not a click track. It's like them really playing, and so there's all this stuff with that, and vocally it was on point. I mean, it was great, So it was great to just see Kiss as a stripped down, really awesome 4-piece rock and roll band, just like all the rest of us are,
That's right. That's right. At the end of the day, for sure. Well, I'll tell you what, David, thanks so much for joining me. We've got the Metal Allegiance coming up on January 25th at the House of Blues. And of course, I'm sure we'll bump into you somewhere here in 2024.
Of course, many, many more things happening. So good to chat again. Thanks, Meltdown.
All right, dude. Thanks for everything, man.
Yep, see you, man. Bye.